Today on Clarence Media's Candidate Q&A, I'm joined by another former Daily Examiner editor and one of the current councillors, Peter Ellem. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Bill, and thanks for providing this forum for all the candidates.
No worries. I think it is a valuable thing for the community. So this past marathon, 5.5 years, your first term on council. Just tell us a bit of the backstory of Peter Ellem.
Well, my wife Susan and I came down here for work to take on the Examiner and Coastal Views in those days, and I'd have to say those 6 years were probably the most enjoyable of my 30-year journalistic career. It was a great paper and had a lot of history to it and a lot of loyalty as well, and a good staff as well, you know, when I had staff.
Certainly the smaller staff that I had as well was also fantastic. But
yeah. So in many ways it was like a homecoming to the valley, because my father's family, the Ellems, pioneered the Clarence. They came up from Mangrove Mountain, and they were horsemen and teamsters, so they did it pretty tough. But now there are Ellems scattered all over the Clarence and Richmond valleys. They worked in forestry on the railroads. They were teachers, like my father and Lewis Ellem, his cousin. Many Grafton people will know of Lewis. Really, he was the family historian. And a lot of the Ellem men fought in World War I, about 20 of them from both valleys. Including my grandfather Thomas, who was fought in France and was in the wiring parties out in no man's land, and he was company quartermaster sergeant for 41st Battalion in Lismore, and he had a brother William who sadly died in Passchendaele towards the end of the war. Interesting story there. He was being nursed by a British nurse, and they were William. And then he was killed, and subsequently the younger brother, married the English nurse, and she came out to Australia. And
so plenty of history.
There's a lot of history there
behind Peter Ellem.
Ellem Oval, the cricketers, they used to play against Sheffield Shield sides, and there was a member of the family who had a coach run going up to the Northern Tablelands, and Thunderbolt the bushranger used to ride with him at night for company, not holding him up, riding with, they were mates.
All right, so fast forward to this, I guess the last 5 years, and you've been on a council that I guess has probably been best described as testing at times, and only 4 candidates standing for re-election. It's going to be a new look. Tell us what this means.
During that 5.5-year term, basically, I stood because I wanted to give back to the local community who'd been very good to our family. I've got 3 daughters, and people have been very kind and over the years. And I'm not a joiner of clubs, so I've probably used my political experience to give back in that regard. And I'd like to see myself as a voice of reason on the council and someone who's been active. Some of the achievements that I'm most proud of are a couple of notices of motion there. One that waived all council fees for every bushfire affected resident during the Black Summer bushfires. That's uninsured and insured, because there was a big yawning gap there. When you go to rebuild, it's much more costly now. So I know people who lost their homes in the fires, and thankfully that was unanimously supported by council. Also, they told me I'd never get James Creek Road sealed or McIntyre's Lane, but I put together this fairly forensic nom that, and there was a review of priorities there. Both of those roads bitumen sealed during this term, and also trials stemming from that were trials into better gravel mixes when we grade roads. I also, in response to resident concerns about how our coastline was being trashed by illegal campers or freedom campers, started a working group involving chambers of commerce, Yaegl elders, national parks and wildlife, and community representatives, and that led to the trial, the signs where people were fined. Probably not as many as I would have liked, but it also led to 3 extra rangers. They don't all prosecute the camping side of things. One's a parking officer, and the others do, dog complaints and neighbourhood disputes, etc. And sometimes it's a matter of taking an ethical stance. So I was one of the few councillors who opposed the Townsend brothel proposal. That was approved, but fortunately the applicant there had built Sanctus Brewery, which is a great, much more positive way of using that piece of industrial land. And I convinced the council to go into an expressions of interest process to secure the $7.6 million for the Grafton Gallery redevelopment. That was being targeted for having half its budget slashed, which I don't know where that would have left one of our iconic attractions. And I fought against the Almara pool closure, but we lost that one. But helped save Glen Ray Pool from closure, and supported riverfront upgrades in Maclean, Grafton, and Almara, and So there are, that's just a record of action, basically, as I see it. In this council, because it was so divided or polarised and sometimes dysfunctional, we had losses in there as well. And this is what I didn't like about this particular council. It was very adversarial. It was win at all costs. There was never any room for compromise as I saw it when I put compromise initiatives forward. And another big win, I think, for Yamba was stopping the push for 3 sets of traffic lights on Yamba Road. And thankfully, the Mayor Jim Simmons voted with, the
roundabout.
The 4.
It seemed to go round and round, though.
It did.
Just a bit like a roundabout.
And but I think that's a better gateway to Yamba than 3 sets of traffic lights. Otherwise, we'd be looking like Coffs Harbour, which is just gridlock, and you'd know what that's like.
Yeah, and I guess Grafton took the honour of the first traffic lights in the valley.
And they're welcome to it.
Not long before.
And they're welcome to that honour.
So speaking of entrances to Yamba, I guess one hot button topic is the second entrance to Yamba. It's been on the back burner for, let's say, 20 years.
Yep.
Is it time that was brought onto the table and seriously considered?
Well, I've consistently argued in council for proper planning to be done there, and it's an absolute must. If Yamba is to grow population-wise, and there is, the controversial rezoning of West Yamba and other, the canal development, and there's Park Avenue, if all of those, if all of those people come here over the next 10 to 15 years, we don't want to end up like Byron playing catch-up. You need to make sure, not just for new local residents, but the visitor population as well, that we've got infrastructure there. And I see a second local, second access or a local Yamba bypass is essential. It's going to be a big ticket item. And even as most recently as the last council meeting, I argued that it should be put on the federal election wish list and sent off to the feds. I just couldn't believe that it wasn't there, even if it was for more planning and get us towards construction. But, it'd be tens of millions of dollars, but probably a very important thing that has to be addressed and not left on the back burner.
Okay. And so again, there's going to be at least 5 new councillors on this council. Looking at the range of candidates, probably won't be as polarised as before, perhaps. And what do you think? How this,
Well, I think what. I don't want to tell people how to vote because You know, it's at the pleasure of the people, basically, whether you get re-elected or elected. But there are some good candidates there, and I think they look. What I think we need is a blend of experience and newcomers, and people who are prepared to work in a collegiate manner, more as a team. You know, put behind us the bullying, the misogyny, the cheap point scoring, and the dysfunction, because all of these procedural points of order. You know, I know where they came from. They didn't come from me. And, you know, we can get through meetings a lot more, you know, efficiently, I think. So you do have some former councillors, you know, from the Maclean Shire days and Armidale, current, who are steeped in local government, and they, you know, they have a lot to offer. But then, you know, after talking to some of the new candidates, they also have a lot to offer. You know, Steve Pickering is one, and you know, I've had conversations with some of the other Grafton-based councillors, and it's important that we get a geographic split in there as a balance, so that both, you know, lower and upper Clarence are well represented.
All right, I guess yeah.
That said, I am a councillor for the whole Clarence Valley.
Yeah.
You know, and I've supported many, you know, Grafton initiatives. You know, because I see them. You know, it's a major centre, and we need to probably take back our regional status. You know, which was stripped from us. You know.
Bit by bit over many years.
Yeah. Lismore suffers from that too. You know, the withdrawal of withdrawal of government and some corporate services.
So yeah, just finally, Peter, I guess just a closing word on why voters should vote for you on Saturday, December the 4th.
Well, I think they would have, people who have watched council closely would have, you know, looked at how I've dealt with issues, and I don't. It sounds counterintuitive, but I don't go out there chasing votes. I'm not going to tell people what they want to hear just for the sake of getting that quota. People know that I'm a plain talker, you know, and I'll tell it as it is in that chamber, and I'll, you know, I want to work with 8 other councillors for the benefit of the valley, and not get bogged down in what we've had over the last 5 years. It's been quite confronting at times, and I know that it's taken an emotional toll on some of my other fellow councillors, and I've in the background given them support, moral support. I can deal with them. I can deal with that kind of stuff.
Well, you've been an editor, you've got to have a hard skin.
That's right, Bill. That's right.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us,
Thanks.
and yeah, and
Thank
good luck on election day.
Thank you.